God, what the hell is that?
I'm the sheriff. I'm the sheriff.
You're the police. Where are your badges?
I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
That's because I'm a stunt. I'm a genuine sports personality. A legendary folk hero.
Jesus Christ.
There he is. Very baddest cat in the jungle. Even the guards are terrified of him.
You can call me when I have to call my lawyer. They bring me a telephone. Would you like to leave me your home phone number?
I don't want to hear any of this. I don't want to hear no more of this.
Wait a minute, I'm just getting to the weird part.
The weird part?
Yeah, it gets weird.
Say we take off, loop the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Let's do it.
Can you do that?
I can do anything. I'm the chief of police.
Yeah, it's movie night. Let's do it. All right, before we get too far down the road, I want to, in my intro, if we're doing Hollywood Tough Guys tonight, I got to give a shout out to Bob Tessier, played Connie Shackner in The Longest Yard, and Kevin in The Deep, and a whole bunch of stuff. Old Connie Shackner was a good old boy. He played a lot of good tough guys. I'll give him a shout out real quick. I want to thank everybody for coming out Saturday night. I know everybody's got stuff to do, partying and all that, but hopefully you're going to stick around and party right here because we got us a crew. Darth Jaeger, how are you, sir?
Everybody, how you doing today? Good to see you, Spider. Good to see you, Cole. Great to be on the show. Thank you very much.
Spidey, I can't tell you how happy we are to have you along, man.
I'm so happy to be back again with Darth and Colhauser and yourself, and I'm going to do it. I broke out the Lagavulin.
All right. We got the good stuff.
Cole, this is what I brought to MegaCon, but we never got to drink it. So,
oh my goodness! And you're gonna crack it on the show? Oh my goodness! I'm honored, man. You got the Lagavulin out. I'm honored. We were talking backstage before y'all popped in. We were all, "What do you got on your sidearm today?" And we were just Colhauser's drinking the expensive stuff, and I'm drinking the cheap stuff. And Spider's like, "Okay, that's it. I'm doing it." And he he went right for the big guns. So, Cole, how you doing, Colossus?
I'm good. It's been a fun week and a fun weekend, and it's nice to get monetized this week and just going forward from there.
Yeah, man, big time. You got Drinker on. You had Beardo on today. I mean, It's kind of a step down to Beardo from Drinker, but you got to take what you can get.
I love Beardo. Beardo was great. He was awesome today. We were just talking. I said, Beardo, you want to come on today? He goes, yeah, I'd love to come on. So I was like, okay, perfect.
All right. Outstanding. I am glad to see everybody in the chat. Zephyr's here. Jim's here. Jim, I saw you got hockey on in the background. I'm going to need you to update me on a couple of scores, okay? So whenever you feel the need, somebody scores, you go ahead and throw one in Super Chats. Let me know.
My Senators are done, so
oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah.
My boys are going to sweep, looks like. And Dallas got back up on Minnesota. That's bugging me out no end. That's all right. Well, we got to wait and see how everything shakes out. Yeah, cheap stuff's just as effective as the expensive. That is a stone fact. Maintain Rage, welcome aboard. Glad to see it. Johnny Normie, thanks for cross-streaming with us. JJ, welcome aboard. What? JJ's all confused. What's going on? I don't get it. Don't worry.
Is that a Stone Cold what?
Yeah, Stone Cold what? Donna Hall showed up. Keep an eye on the fellas. Good call. All right, so here's the deal. We got our last stream. We were sitting around kind of in the back after the last show and said, you know what? Let's do some Hollywood Tough Guys. Let's get back into the good old days. And I left this one wide open. So everybody, we had kind of a schedule on the last one, but on this one, because we had, it was William Friedkin. We picked out 4 of his 4 or 5 of his best ones and did that. But tonight, everybody's going to get a crack at their own examples. I got some Lee Marvin, some Charles Bronson. And the good thing about doing both of those is you could pick 3 movies and they're both in each one of those movies because for some reason they just like to work together a lot. So we got that, and we'll go around the horn, let everybody break out their examples, and we'll kick them around. And hopefully there's some lost or forgotten gems in here that people can go out and pick up on physical media and see if we can get you some good entertainment that you might have either never seen or forgotten about. And since we are kind of in a clockwise thing, Darth, how would you like to start off and tell us who you've brought along, who you want to get in front of the people?
Well, I kind of gravitate towards Charles Bronson, as a kid, born Charles Baczynski as a kid, to these parents who were from Eastern Europe, and kind of had that sort of look to him, that kind of Mongol roots with the high cheekbones, which is why he was cast as Indians a few times in a lot of those movies from the 60s and 70s. And it's interesting that everybody was saying, "Oh, you got to change your name, man, because that sounds like a commie name, and we can't have that in Hollywood right now." So he just driving around one day with his friends, and they're like, "Hey, Bronson Street, that sounds good. You got to use that." He's like, "Okay." That became his stage name,
It's not like anybody sat down in a studio one day and goes, "Okay, we got 8 different names. You got to pick one of these." Nah, none of that.
Just driving down the road one day.
Nice.
The thing that I kind of admire the most about a lot of these guys that we're going to be talking about today is they lived lives before they became actors. Like Bronson, he was the 11th of 15 kids in his family. He worked in the mines where his father worked right out of high school.
Yeah,
before
man.
he was drafted. He went and what was it, with the U.S. Army Air Force? It wasn't the Air Force at the time. It was, I guess those things were separate at the time. But he fought in World War II and got the Purple Heart, and all these guys, right? Everybody we're going to talk about, they're probably all served. They all had lives before acting. Biggest difference between these guys and the young people today that have nothing. They just came right out of theater school and just went into acting. And
yeah, man,
I think the biggest problem they have is when somebody gets their name wrong on their cup at Starbucks.
Right. You bring up Bronson worked in the mines. That absolutely incredible job he did as Danny the Tunneler in The Great Escape. That claustrophobia bit that he has in there, that's kind of acting, but kind of not, because he really riddled with that, because I'm sure he'd been caved in on more than once. He went to work early as a kid.
Oh yeah,
in the mines. So that wasn't hard to pretend right there.
I kind of liked about him too is he's always had in all his roles, pretty much every role, he's got this sort of quiet reserve, this stoic quality about him, right? That he can say so much with a look, where other people would be, flapping their gums and doing all sorts of things. He just turns and puts that gaze on you, and you're like, "Oh, geez, what's going on here?"
I got a really good clip for that when we get to Death Hunt. He's got him and Lee Marvin got a great scene I'm going to bring up here in a little while. But yeah, most of that movie is him staring at people and shutting them up.
And great physicality to him, to play these tough guys. And, even when he's in his 50s, he's taking his shirts off in these movies and he's just jacked. Right. You're like, dude.
That's a miner right there. That's a dude that's been working. He's been working with coal chisels his whole life.
There's a lot of great stuff here. I mean, I watched a movie called Hard Times with James Coburn. And there was this sort of a period, I guess, in the 70s where they were doing this sort of hobo cinema thing. And there was all these movies that came out where the guy is riding the rails, gets off the rails in the new city, and goes out there and makes his fortune and leaves in the end. And that was this one. He comes off there and he's this hard bare knuckle brawler that James Coburn wants to make some money off, and they get into some adventures together. And I'd never seen it before. It was pretty good.
Speaking of riding the rails, I got some Emperor. I got an Emperor of the North, a couple of stills. We're going to hit that one. Speaking of hobo cinema, that is kind of the penultimate hobo cinema. We'll check that out in a little bit. We got some good. Spidey, who'd you bring along? Who'd you bring to the table tonight?
Oh, it's gonna be tough. I'm gonna go up two ways. It's Clint Eastwood or Gene Hackman for those. We've spoken at length about Clint in other streams. I think it was the last stream too, and Gene Hackman, how they just show up and they don't have to say a word, or you can be like Gene Hackman, say a little bit with a smile, and then raise those eyebrows, make him be like, okay, he means business. That whole thing. So I'm kind of in those guys' corner for the night, I guess.
Outstanding. Speaking of which, we'll bring this up real quick. Well, let me see if I can get her.
But I'm not taking away Charles Bronson because he was awesome. It's just growing up, I had watched more of those movies. Then it would be Bronson, and it would be Lee Marvin after that. And it's no disrespect to them. It's just, what I was brought up on and how I was brought up.
They're all great choices.
Yeah. They're kind of, plus that's an era thing too. When you're talking, Charles Bronson, Lee Marvin, you're talking late 60s, early 70s. Now these two guys are peaking in the 80s. You're getting to the tail end in the 80s because, both of them, Bronson outlived Lee Marvin by a great deal, but, Lee Marvin, 86, 87, I think he expired. He was gone, and he was done working a lot earlier than Charles Bronson was. Charles Bronson was in pretty bad health, and he just kept making later on in his career was making a lot of that direct-to-video and really, kind of sketch B-movie stuff.
He did Death Wish 4 when he was 73,
Yeah.
He was still pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mess with him for all the whiskey in Ireland, but the guy couldn't, he had a little trouble with lines, which when you're Charles Bronson is not that big a deal. When you're Bruce Willis and you got trouble with lines, you got a problem. But when you're Charles Bronson and you can't remember lines, who gives a shit? Because all you're going to do is stare at somebody, and put them off their feed. Cole, you got anybody you want to bring to the table?
Yeah, so I got I'd say I got a couple. So I'm gonna bring Chuck Norris because he had quite a few movies in the 70s that I enjoyed, like Good Guys Wear Black, Breaker. There was just, even though he wasn't into the 80s genre, but he still had all those movies in the 70s. And then I'll bring up a guy like Richard Roundtree, Jim Kelly, even Mel Gibson,
Hell yes.
Because they were still, they were younger, but they were making Mel Gibson with Mad Max and whatever, but they were just semi-making their mark. And and that's why when I bring up Richard Roundtree, even Stallone, he had his few movies in the 70s, so it's there's a few, but then I could turn that back around. You can go to a Sean Connery. You can go to I'll go back with a Gene Hackman. There's quite a few that can make yourself known, because I knew who Bronson was, but it wasn't. I knew Bronson more in The Dirty Dozen than I did with his later films. Because the Dirty Dozen was a movie. It was just like, this was the cream of the crop of, you had an all-star cast, and then of course going with, you can go with Clint Eastwood because he had all his movies, and not necessarily all westerns for Clint Eastwood. So there was quite a few things that was mulling around that era. So, because it's a lot different when you go into the 80s, and yeah, because you can talk your Arnolds and Van Dams and even Chuck at those times, but more or less you had those guys in the 60s and 70s that made the mark of who was who, you know. And I think even Jim Brown, you know, you can even bring him up too of the movies he did.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna get him in there. You bet.
Yeah, so there was just a whole span of, you know, even bring Bruce Lee up for at some point. But yeah, there was just, you had the tough guy sentiment back then that you just knew who the guys were who you're going to cast in those movies you're going to watch. And just when we're talking backstage with Von Ryan's Express, you had Frank Sinatra in a tough guy role. You had Trevor Howard, you know, guys you wouldn't think, but they were there. So, Burt Reynolds as well, you know.
Just as a goof, real quick, I want to do, because we talked about Gene Hackman for a second, I want to do two different kinds of tough guys before we go too far, because we were talking about what we were having with the show. You got Gene Hackman, you got, you know, Clint Eastwood, the best Western ever made, Unforgiven. And then you got tough guys like Richard Harris in there who, now this is going to sound funny, but the lives that some of those dudes led, him, Oliver Reed, you know, some of the Robert Shaws, the drinkers, for those guys to stick around for as long as they did, that was kind of a feat as well. You know, some of those dudes, they didn't just, you know, play hard. I mean, they didn't just work hard, they played hard. That takes a lot out of you too, when you're doing as many movies as you're doing, where you show up plastered half the time, and they always hit it. They're like, okay, you know, he was, yeah, legit Hellraiser. There was a bunch of old boys like that in Hollywood. We're going to stick more towards a few of the vets tonight, I think. Let us do, I got a couple of dandies. Let's see if we can break these out. I'm going to remove this here. I have a few movies that I'm not sure everybody has seen, but we're going to put them out there. The ones that I hit right off the bat was Death Hunt and The Dirty Dozen. You got Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson working together in both of those, especially Death Hunt. There's a lot of, Quick and the Dead, Gene, but a lot of good action from him. Man Called Horse, for Richard Harris. See, we're going to wind up doing a whole bunch of these. I know you guys in chat got a ton of these. When we get to The Great Escape, oh my goodness, you can do that whole cast. We're going to do a whole thing on why The Great Escape was so great. Go ahead.
Quickly, because you guys are Richard Harris. Does anyone here, well, Darth Jaeger will know, anyone here know SCTV?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when Dave Thomas played Richard Harris? And he was singing MacArthur Park.
MacArthur Park,
He just
kept going on and on and on.
And he's dancing, and they're just playing the background music. And then someone throws a brick at him in the stomach.
Oh, that was so good. I was thinking about SCTV the other day. That's one of the
it's just that whole Richard Harris thing, and it was just, and like Eugene Levy's character is like, who, Mel's Rockfire, I was like, who threw that brick? And Richard Harris is like, I'm going to sue you. It's just comedy gold. Anytime I hear Richard Harris's name, that immediately pops in my head. So, sorry to detract, but
no.
When you mention Richard Harris, it just
I'm about it, man. Let's start with Death Hunt. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, but I want to get this in front of people. If you're Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson fan, either or, you need to check this one out, because it's got both of them, and one is chasing the other. The premise of the story is Charles Bronson plays Albert Johnson, who is a World War I vet and is, did a lot of, secret special stuff, what have you. And he decides in 1933 he's going to head up to the Yukon Territory. And there's a there's a fable going around about a mad trapper, and he's killing people, you know, hunters and trappers and miners and such, and stealing the gold out of their teeth. And so people think this Albert Johnson might have a little something to do with it. So there's Charlie. And now we're hitting the 1981 year. So he's getting up there, and Lee Marvin's getting way up there for Lee Marvin. So we're going to go back to his early stuff later. But this one has got a couple of really good side characters in it as well. And I want to get everybody to take a look for this one. 1981, directed by Peter Hunt. It's called Death Hunt. How do I put this? The story is not complicated, okay? Essentially, Lee Marvin is a Canadian Mountie who is chasing Albert Johnson after they have an incident at a cabin. Albert Johnson gets up there, and wait a minute, not that. Take that off there. And the first scene is he gets to a camp where they're fighting dogs. And Ed Lauder, the late great Ed Lauder, who is an amazing character guy in his own right, and a good old Hollywood. Most of these dudes are all good old Hollywood tough guys, but he plays a guy by the name of Hazel. He's gaming a dog, and he runs afoul of Albert Johnson. Albert basically buys his dog off of him, and when it's half dead, after a fight, and he takes it to his cabin that he's built. He just wants to be left alone, doesn't want anybody to bother him. Well, after this incident at the camp where he takes the dog, things go excuse me, things go kind of sideways. And essentially, Hazel comes and he argues with Lee Marvin, who is Royal Canadian Mounted Police Sergeant Edgar Millen. And let me introduce you to Sergeant Edgar Millen as you see him in the show. This is classic, hey, how you doing, Lee Marvin kind of stuff.
Edgar, some damn squirrely trapper stole my best hunting dog. Somebody stole my dog.
Go away, Hazel.
That's Sergeant Millen.
What are you staring at?
He has had enough of the Yukon, and he is not interested about hearing any problems. So, long story short, a couple of these old boys go back out there to get the dog, and things do not go well. They kind of want to take the dog back, and they're going to smoke old Albert Johnson. Albert's one of those dudes. He's not going down quietly. And here's kind of an introduction to how Charles Bronson plays Albert Johnson, the World War I, secret spy guy hero. He is buying ammo before he heads up to his shack.
Hurley's. I can save you the journey. Skeeter's got him last spring. Ate through his eyelids and pumped him full of poison. Curly finally got a gun and blew his brains out.
That's one way to stop the buzzing.
not okay. Thanks for the advice. I'm sure. None of that chit chat bullshit. Just it's one way to stop the buzzing. I.e., give it a rest, man. Give it a rest. They go up. Things go sideways. Couple of them old boys get shot because Albert Johnson is dug in his cabin like a tick, and they make the mistake of chasing him in there. He shoots a couple of them. They come back to camp and they get Edgar Millen and go, hey, he shot a few people and you need to go out and arrest him. Millen's like, I'm pretty sure that's not exactly what happened, but okay, I'll go out. Now, here's where things get good. Millen has to go out and try and talk Albert Johnson. Now, he's brought a whole mess of fellas with him, and they're all around his cabin. But this is where he meets Albert for the first time.
don't look like a madman.
You look like a Mountie.
Johnson, we've got a bad situation out here. There's a dead body over there. Probably has your bullet in it.
I absolutely love the you don't have to say a word. Both of these guys have that eyebrow flinch, the nod, the that's better from either one of these than a whole bunch of exposition. That body over there has probably got your bullet in it. And Chuck goes, says it all.
Oh.
I have a pretty fair idea of what happened out here.
Then leave me be.
I just can't do that. I have to take you in and clear this up.
So that's where the rest of the movie goes. That happens fairly early on, and then the rest of the movie is, of course, again, all them boys that are around the cabin, they decide they ain't on Edgar Millen's plan. They take a couple of shots, and then shit just goes completely sideways. And he has to chase Albert Johnson across the Yukon. And I'm not going to ruin anything, but there's a lot of gunplay in this. There is the special effects on some of them are interesting. I wouldn't say they're great, but they don't necessarily suck either. What were you going to say, Spider, a minute ago when I had to think?
Oh yeah, I didn't realize. Sorry, I didn't realize you were finished.
No, that's all right.
Where I was looking to stream this movie or find it anywhere because it's very hard to find. They were showing those stills of that shot. I'm like, is that fucking blunderbuss that he has right there? I mean, they're just a very sawed-off shotgun. After noticing,
he's in the cabin and he saws. Now, here's what I love. And there's a bunch of scenes in this movie, and I'm going to roll one up here in just a minute to show everybody. We're going to talk about Lee Marvin specifically for just a second. But when Bronson is in the cabin, Albert Johnson's in his cabin, he saws that shotgun off. And he takes and this is all a one take. So you can see we ain't messing around here. It's a real scattergun and it's a real hacksaw. And he takes it down and the barrel falls off. And then he takes one of them big old Charles Bronson, index fingers and sticks it in there and rolls it around a little bit and pulls a bunch of metal shavings out of there. Now, that's a little bitty kind of thing that you look at and go, if you've ever messed with metal that you've just hacksawed, man, I need glove. I'm taking a file to that shit. I ain't putting my finger in there. I'm going to walk away with
slivers, a lot of metal slivers in my life, and that's not fun.
I was like, oh, man, you got to be kidding me. There is another one. A lot of people know Lee Marvin was a Marine. He was wounded. He was in a bunch of battles, World War II. He was wounded real bad in Saipan, and that's the one that ended his career. He was a sharpshooter. He was a lot of people say he was a sniper. That's true to an extent. The sniper program didn't exactly exist. Well, it doesn't even exist anymore, but didn't exist in the form that it did for the longest time because Gunny Hathcock hadn't come around yet. But he was he would be like Jesse Ventura would be to the SEALs. He technically did this stuff before they did it, but he was a hell of a shot. And there is a scene that I want to bring up at the end of this movie where we were talking about these old boys had lived a life and they have done it. I want to show you something now. I'm not giving anything away. I am a Marine Scout sniper. That was one of my MOSs. And you can see somebody that knows how to shoot. I'm going to show you what that looks like and why nowadays when I look at movies and they have guys and they just, shoulder something and pop a bunch or they do a bunch of weird trash with their weapons. Let me show you what it looks like when somebody who knows how to shoot a rifle does it. Okay, now what he's doing, just so we're clear, he took that. He's got his sling. He took that and put that hid the rifle right in that shoulder pocket. And then he cranked it up really high because it buries it in your shoulder pocket. Now watch him beat down on this. That cheek pump that he's doing, I do that every single time I climb behind a scope. Every single time. That dude right there has shot many a rifle. That dude has shot many people, probably very, very successfully. I can't stand that you see Hollywood. You know, when that Stranger Things came out and that gal, racked that carry handle on that AR that she had, and it made that rack noise. You remember everybody was goofing around about that and went, shh, and it was all of a sudden that AR-15 was reloaded. I'm like, God dang, I hate when Hollywood gets it wrong. I really miss when you had dudes, like your armor on set could just hand Lee Marvin a carbine and go, here, man, show us how it's done. And he'd do it. He would absolutely do it. So I'm not going to ruin anything about the film. It's a great chase movie. There's a lot of good. It's early on, so the technology you're going to there's a biplane involved in a chase at one point. It's very cool. They have the late great Carl Weathers plays an excellent role in there. He's Lee Marvin's. I guess he's the Mountie that's working with him before Andrew Stevenson gets there and kind of screws up the whole deal with his fancy uniform and the whole 9 yards. But if anybody gets a chance, check that one out.
Yeah, I wanted to see that one.
It's a real good one, real good film. I mean, it's I look at it now and I think about it differently than I do when I saw it originally. And I look at that and I say, oh yeah, Charles Bronson, he's the guy in this movie that just wants to be left alone. And then people get in there and they start fucking with it.
Right off the bat. Yeah, he goes
right off the bat.
Goes to that camp and they're gaming those dogs, and he beats Ed Lauder's ass and takes a dog from him because it's about dead and he's ready to finish it off. And Charles Bronson walks in and whoops him up and says, I'm buying it from you, and then takes it. And of course, the trouble ensues from there. So that is a dandy. If you get a chance, to be fair, it's hard to find on physical media nowadays. It's a tough find.
Out of print for a while now, and it's even tougher to find streaming.
Yeah, that's one you may have to get on, Fandango or find some, side gig. Every now and again, TNT, if you're really lucky, you get a TNT style channel. You might see it on there. And if you do, don't pass that one by. If you happen to be cruising the cable one day and that pops up, give her a look. That's a good one. I think we'll go. We say we go on to the Dirty Dozen, take a look at that one real quick. And when I say real quick, I mean for a good 20 minutes or so. Let's do this. I'm going to start out. Let's do this. Let's start out with just an absolute banger scene. Anybody that hasn't seen the Dirty Dozen, I'm sure everybody probably has in this audience. Got a bunch of POWs that are either sentenced to life at hard labor or the death sentence. They got a mission. Americans got a mission to, go into Germany, wreak some havoc, and good bet nobody on this thing is going to come back alive. So they figure, all right, we'll use some prisoners, and their reward is you come back alive, you get a pardon. You get to do your thing. There you go. Great ensemble cast.
Suicide Squad.
Exactly. The original Suicide Squad. I often wondered if
kids out there.
For you kids out there that don't understand, that was not the original Suicide Squad. I often wonder, would they really do that in the military? I mean, back in World War II, they might have tried something like that. I don't think you'd do anything like that today, but you saw it in the theater. Yes, you're old. Yeah, anybody that saw this one in theater, 67, I believe.
1967, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah,
I hit that one right on the head. Man,
yeah, you got it.
Get out of here. Clearly, I need more whiskey.
Robert Aldridge directed. It's a classic. It's a classic. It's got all these guys in it, right? It's got Ernest Borgnine. It's
Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, it's good.
Telly Savalas.
Savalas, yeah. Jim Brown. George Kennedy.
Cassavetes.
Oh yeah, Cassavetes.
George Kennedy, also a vet. Army Captain George Kennedy was. And I just loved Kennedy, but man, all the stuff he showed up in Thunderbolt and Lightfoot and the Eiger Sanction, and he liked to work with, Clint Eastwood on and off, and Dragline and Cool Hand Luke. Man, that dude was good. He was a great character guy. And he wasn't always the same. I mean, character guys usually you get them, they're a little bit of themselves, and he was kind of that, but he was a little bit different in all of his roles. Kennedy could kind of go with the flow. He could move around pretty good.
And Richard Jackal.
Richard Jackal,
yep,
as the MP sergeant.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite actors because he was in a whole bunch of stuff.
He was he could just transform into anything.
Yeah, he was in Delta Force 2 with Chuck Norris.
No kidding.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go back through his filmology, man.
Yeah, he was in Baywatch.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, he was in the Baywatch series.
And one of the 3 characters that survived the Dirty Dozen assault on. Spoilers. Oh, I forgot to say spoilers before we did that.
Put up the spoiler paddle.
Do I have a spoiler paddle?
I don't know.
It's funny. So one of my favorite movies, it's called The King of Kickboxers. It's with Lauren Avedon and Billy Blanks. Billy Blanks, everyone knows, is the Tybo guy because that guy's a hardcore fighter. And Richard Jackal was in this movie, and they basically. Do you remember in Beverly Hills Cop when Inspector Carter was ripping a Foley a new one over at the beginning with the cigarettes?
In which one?
In Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes.
So when he was ripping it, he's tearing him a new one. So Richard Jackal's character almost did the same thing in King of the Kickboxers, because I remember we were watching it with a couple of friends, and everyone said, "Isn't this the same thing that happened? Almost the same style what happened when Inspector Cod ripped Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop?" Because that Richard Jackal was like the tough nose police captain in that movie, so it was pretty good.
I did love that part in Beverly Hills Cop. He's telling him, well, "What are you doing with a truckload of cigarettes?" And then Paul Reiser's next to him. "I told you in trouble." And he goes, "Jeffrey, this is none of your fucking business." He's like, "This is not my locker," and turns around and walks away. "Sorry, boss." There is Mr. Jackal right there. Merchant Marine, by the way. He and Clint Posey, both Merchant Marines. For anybody who doesn't know, they follow the non-military vessels back and forth, the logistics vessels back and forth during wartime. Highly unsung job in the military. Well, not really in the military, though. They're more DOT, so it doesn't really count. But they get shot just the same, so. Manlet's amuse you. I don't even want to know what was going on there. Cassavetes, he was another one of those dudes. He was another one of those hard drinking fellas. He was a writer, really, more than anything. And him and Peter Falk were good buddies. And Cassavetes was just all over the place trying to get projects done left and right. And no, he did not take crap from anyone. Part of the reason that he didn't get more work than he did was a lot of people just did not get along with him. He wanted control. This is my piece and this is what I'm doing. And they're like, "No, we're doing it like this." And he'd walk away from it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And then his son, Nick, was in a whole bunch of stuff too.
Yeah, I know that you're a big fan of the Wraith. That was his big one. That Cassavetes was that.
Well, I also like Cassavetes in Face Off.
Oh yeah,
he's like, "No more drugs for this man."
Clint Walker, also a Merchant Marine, correct? Yeah. As a matter of fact, let's do this since we're talking about Clint Walker, and we're doing. Here we go, and we're doing the Dirty Dozen.
After, but it was a funny part I like.
Kill somebody with a knife. You think you could do it? Come on, Posey, tell me.
I'd rather not.
What do you mean you'd rather not? I don't care what you'd rather do. Oh, come on, stick that knife in. You can do that. Come on.
When we're going through this, I'm going to let this roll, and if we get hit, we get hit. I'm not going to make too many comments on this, but when we're going through this and we get to the end, somebody tell me where the split is, where you can see the stuntman replacement. Do that.
Sure, I don't want to do this. Oh, come on, Posey, just stick it right here. I mean, it won't hurt. Come on. I don't want to hurt you. You're not going to hurt me. I'm going to hurt you. Posey, stick me with a knife now.
I love when he smiles at him. "You're not going to hurt me. I'm going to hurt you."
I don't want no trouble. You got no trouble. I'm going to give you all the trouble you're ever going to get. Come on now, Posey. Just stick that knife right there, right there. Come on. You're a big boy. Look, you killed a man because he shoved you? Well, I'm shoving. Now, come on.
Ow.
Stick him! Posey, I'm talking to you. Give it to me, Posey, or I'm going to shove you right through the wall.
Come on, Posey, give it to him.
Telly Savalas was so great as Maggot. Here it comes. That's a big old dude right there.
Yep.
It's just a great cast. Great
It
cast.
was fantastic. All right, here it comes. Richard Jekyll drawn down. Anybody see a stuntman change up there?
No, I didn't. I tried
Yeah,
to catch it.
that's right.
Did not.
Know why?
One of them trick questions, wasn't it, Sheriff?
That's right, because there wasn't one. Telly Savalas was big. Oh, no. What do you expect?
Give him a lollipop.
Give him a lollipop.
Lousy tipper. Oh, no.
That was one of those ones that it just, everybody in there, it was a great ensemble cast, and everybody in there was fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know?
It was a fun movie. Like, I don't know if you're gonna bring up that one ending, but I love the banter with Charles Bronson. You know, killing generals is gonna be a habit with me.
I did not clip the ending of that, but yeah, you know, killing generals could get to be a habit.
I always love that part, but I like the way. So I like the way Bronson and Jim Brown's character played on each other. You know, they immediately become friends, and you know they're just. It's funny because you don't see that in the beginning, but once they're on the thing, they basically unless they're agreeing. I like that banter that they have between them. You know, we're basically working together on this. So.
I love the story that everybody's got their story about how they got there, and I love that they gave Charles Bronson his backstory was one of the crew, one of his platoon was taken off with the medical supplies, so he shot him, dropped him. Oh, I got to remove it.
I was an officer for like 2 days or something like that.
Yeah, he was a lieutenant for about an hour and a half before he shot some guy and got rid of him. Oh man, that was a good one.
But you know, when you have a cast like this, you just can't pass up, because you look at today's movies where they bring in this big cast. You know, I didn't mind Trini Lopez. How can I say this? Trini Lopez just brought a different element to it, where I think they mentioned this in the movie Canadian Bacon. They wouldn't have Trini Lopez in this, but I think he worked. You have an ensemble cast of cutthroats, murderers, and whatever else they're doing, and they made it work. That's how I saw it.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get everything you want, but for some reason they made this movie with these oddball characters. They made it work.
I don't think you can't put a whole crew of nothing but tough guys together and expect everybody's gonna. I mean, how do I put this? When you got a team like that, excuse me. When you got a team like that, you got to have everybody's got their specialty. And like, let's say Predator, you know, Shane Black, he's the comic reading funny guy. And, you know, Jesse's got the minigun, and Sonny's, you know, good with a knife. You got to have all that this was kind of the progenitor of that. Everybody's got their specialty. You can't have them all. They can't all be Clint Walker, you know?
Yeah. Well, think about like this. If you made this Dirty Dozen, tough guys and cutthroats, and they can the movie's over, because basically they're all coming back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right. The suspense is gone. You're like, yeah, they'll all live perfect.
Yeah, they'll all live, because if you did the movie the way you would there, we're gonna go in, they're gonna just take out everybody. But everyone got taken out except for 3. So that's what I mean. The movie works, because you don't have these tough guys. You just have these oddballs who committed this crime or that crime, and it worked for them.
It's nice that they take the time in the film too to sort of introduce you to all these characters and give them a little bit of something to do. So you kind of, they're not just a bunch of different, of same kind of faces in the background going through things. That's what movies these days, they don't tend to do as much. You don't get the time to understand who these guys are in modern films like they did with
The Lost Art.
Yeah.
The great George Kennedy.
Yeah.
I love. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, regarding just going off of Darth's statement, it made the movie work in the way that how they not only introduce people, but what they were actually planning, because they actually took the time that, well, we're doing, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to finish this. But they made it so every character is likable. Like, you can come on to the one scene I love was at the beginning, well, right after when Lee Marvin, Major Risen meets with the general, and I just love the way he almost when he almost pretty much back talks the colonel and the general, but that one line when he says, well, what if it is, well, I'd be very upset. And
Right.
The fact that he's like basically saying, yeah, you may be a general, you may have stars on your stripes, but I'm taking this task, and I'm gonna take you on. And that's how I love Lee Marvin's character, how he was just so tough and efficient in how he did things.
There's in this one in particular, there's just this, you get old boys. God, let me see if there's anybody that hasn't been. So Lee Marvin himself, even though he was a corporal at one point, was a PFC when he left. That was just the kind of dude that he was. You run into these old boys that have been shot at enough, they don't really care what their career does and what it doesn't do, And that really, I think that sort of translated really well into this particular role for him, because he just nailed that.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
Look, you're going to send me to my death with these rechards. I don't know that, I need to be really concerned about whether or not I'm going to get demoted here.
And you remember, back in the day, like, well, when you're going through World War II, Vietnam and stuff like that, who basically command the units? It was the staff sergeants. It was the first sergeants. These are the guys who ran the show, because they were the veterans. They knew what was going on. You get some officer who had no idea what they're doing, and it was the first sergeant, the staff sergeants who bailed them out all the time. And that's how I always looked at Lee Marvin's character. He basically, you got a star, you got a bird on your stripes. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing things.
I'm going to shift gears for a second, because we're going to get into I don't have a lot of screenshots, but I do want to talk about The Great Escape, and we can horse around with that one in great detail, because there's just a ton of people in there that we can go over. I do want to get this movie out in front of everybody, since Lee Marvin's kind of driving the bus right now, which is good, because he should. God, that guy was, he was a niche actor, to be sure. He wasn't, you take the musicals out of there, you Paint Your Wagons and the Cat Balloos and all that, and you take them out of there, and it was just Lee Marvin. But there was one, and Darth, you were mentioning hobo cinema earlier on. This is absolutely the king of those movies, a film called Emperor of the North. And I will bring up just the title card just to show. Let me go. Sorry, I got everything kind of disjointed here. Where are we at? There we go. I will bring up. Here's how that one sort of starts. Now, I'm not going to show the whole intro, but it does tell, me and my William Friedkin black and white bang, title cards at the beginning of the movie tells you right off. 1933, height of the Great Depression. And this is literally all about hobos and riding the rails, and an absolutely maniacal, I think probably Ernest Borgnine's very best role playing what they used to call a railroad dick, as the guy that's responsible for keeping the hobos off of riding the trains. And his name in the movie is Shaq. And he is absolutely unbalanced in this thing. It is, how do I put this? If you get the opportunity, sir.
What's the name of this one again?
This one's called Emperor of the North.
Emperor of the North. Okay.
And it starts out, it's got this, I'm sure they meant well with, you know, the soundtrack on it. Ernest Borgnine, also veteran, Navy veteran. He was an officer. I don't remember what rank he was. This one starts out with a really goofy song. And when I say goofy, even for me, when they go, well, don't you like country music? Well, not so much. I do like some bluegrass and what have you, but this one goes kind of far afield. But right after that song ends and Shaq does, you get to see the very opening scene is him running a couple of hobos off the train. You get to see exactly what kind of stakes we're playing for here with shots like this. This old boy fell off the train. Well, actually, he didn't fall off. Shaq pushed him off, and that's how he wound up after the train rolled by. That's a trailing shot. So you go, oh, God dang, we ain't messing around. You're like, am I seeing something, or is that boy in two pieces? No, he's in two pieces. Now, they have a fairly good side story with, let me get a picture of, here you go. Let's do a number one. Lee Marvin plays the king of the hobos. A number one. Everybody's got nicknames. Nobody's got a real name because you're 1933, height of the Depression, and that's kind of how the world works. And this is one of his absolute. He had a goddamn ball filming this, I'm sure, because he gets to just goof around and just he carries a chicken with him through the first, couple of minutes of the movie, and he's, pulling all these great stunts and messing with Ernest Borgnine. And the part that I think is really fun to him is he gets to absolutely school on Keith Carradine. Let me bring him up. There we go. Keith Carradine, a super young. Is that Keith? Or is it? No, not Keith. God
Keith.
Dang it. Is that Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah, Keith Robert David. Yeah. Super young. He is a total pain in the ass. Kid thinks he knows everything, and he gets Lee Marvin into all kinds of shit throughout this entire movie. He gives away their position to Shaq, who, is just, maligns him the whole time. Well, he gets caught, and they take him to a whole cigarette here. He gets caught, and they take him to the railroad cop office and sweat him down and find out that A number one's planning on making a run all the way up to, from one part of this line all the way up to another part of the line. And Shaq's like, nah, I ain't going to do it. Yeah, I ain't going to let that happen. And everybody says, you can't beat A number one. He's the best. Well, then they get the money out. They start dropping bets. Now, $20 bets in 1933, that's a shit ton of money. So they get, a couple of $100 down on this thing. And then the chase is on. Now we got to jump on and off the rails. We got a lot of great hobo tricks. But what you get in this movie, how do I put this? There are some, if you ever think that people nowadays, like you see, how do I put this? You see tough guys. I'll give you an example. You know that fight between Roddy Piper and
Keith David
and They Lived. See, you know right where I was going. That great WWF sequence they did, that fantastic fight. Okay, that was a great fight scene, right? This movie, you see some of the nastiest, most horrible, just vicious fights and tricks that you can do. I'll give you an example. Two of these old boys are up underneath a couple of the rail cars, Keith Carradine and Lee Marvin. They get on the struts up underneath a couple of the rail cars, and Shaq knows they're under there, right? Ernest Borgnine, he knows they're under there. So he takes a joint pin that goes in between the two trains, big metal heavy pin, right? And he ties it to the end of a line, and he just starts dragging it underneath the train as they're riding. Now that thing is bouncing around. That's about a 12-pound piece of solid steel, and it's bouncing around. They're going 30 miles an hour or whatever, and it's hopping up underneath there. And he lets that line out just far enough till he hears them start screaming, and then he starts pulling it back and forth and just whooping these boys, and it's bouncing off the ground. I mean, this thing is brutal. The whole show is like that. There's a lot of good tips and tricks. They got to slow the train down at one point, and so that they can jump back on. And you learn some of the coolest things in the world. Like they go out and get a whole bunch of old axle grease buckets from this dump, and then they take them back up to the line, and they just coat the rail line on this hill with this axle grease. Just stops that thing graveyard dead. And then they jump back on, and away they go. There's a lot of inventive stuff like that. And at the end, I am here to tell you, let me remove this. I got to show you. Ernest Borgnine, I've seen a lot of his stuff, and he's been crazy in a few shows from time to time. But this one, now this ain't, if you're expecting Cabby from Escape from New York, that is not going to happen. You're going to get this dude right here. He is out of his goddamn mind in this movie. Some of the stuff he pulls on these guys is incredible.
I got to check this out.
It is a dandy. And at the end, I'm not giving anything away. Let me get this off of here real quick. You are going to see. Let me hang on. I'm a little bit slow. I got a bunch of stuff I'm trying to get through. Okay, here we go. At the end of this movie, you are going to see one of the best knockdown, drag out, whatever railroad tools are at hand fight scenes you're ever going to see. And it's all Lee Marvin and Ernest Borgnine. Ain't no stuntmen, a lot of one shots. It's, matter of fact, the whole thing, 2, 3, I think there's only 4 cuts in the whole thing, and the rest of it is these two just getting it done. I mean, there's chains and bars and boards, and clearly, as you see, old PFC Lee Marvin here found himself a fire axe. It's good. It's a good one. So if you ever get a chance, check that one out. I quit.
Definitely check that out.
I quit. You know, that was
on streaming.
You know what? That's a good point. Let me know if you find
strictly
that.
DVD.
Is it strictly on DVD?
And if you want a Blu-ray on Amazon, it's $159.
Ooh, dang.
Oh, that's a bit much. Thank you.
It's
okay. It's
like
a good. It ain't $159 worth of good. Just so we're clear.
Because remember, when you got these prints that are pretty much almost out of circulation, that's when those prices skyrocket.
Oh my goodness! I might have to go through my collection, see if I can get a couple of these out on eBay and see what's what, man.
That's what happens when there's it happens every time when there's certain DVDs that are basically going out of print. They jack up the prices.
You know, I wonder if that's not on purpose at some point. Yeah, it's out of print,
Oh,
but
for sure.
I wonder if that's not on purpose. Like, they ain't buying our our nowadays slop. Maybe we'll just make the stuff that they could watch cost $200 for a physical copy of it. Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you, Maintained Rage. I'll let you go ahead and say it, so I won't.
Yeah, I was gonna say it, but I was like, because that's where I get all my stuff from. But I was like, nah, I ain't gonna say it.
All right, none of us had to say it in the chat. That was all the chat, folks. For all you legal entities and YouTube entities out there, it was all chat. And he's in Australia, so good luck going after him. Perfect.
Perfect.
It is. The reason I brought that one up too, it was brutal, and it was brutal in a realistic kind of way. It was one of those, it's not body horror. I mean, it kind of is, that first shot we put up there with that fella separated by that rail. That's a little bit of body horror, but I mean, it is legit. It tells you like it is. There's one point where he pulls a steam line off of one of the cars, one of the brake lines, and he hits Lee Marvin with it, sears his shoulder all up. And I mean, it's a great period piece. You know, the costumes are awesome. They do a lot of fun stuff with the railroad dicks chasing hobos, and they show hobo camps where these boys are all, you know, they're making shine and making hobo stew, whatever somebody can steal. And I mean, Marvin's carrying a turkey under his arm for half of it. And
gaining weight from all that rich hobo cuisine.
Right. And so if you find that one, if you're sailing the 7 seas and you happen to run across Emperor of the North, do yourself a favor. I wonder if there's a way I could do a watch party. You know what we might do one night? We might sit down and actually just pull that out and go clip by clip, do an EFAP style breakdown on that.
You can do a watch party on a different site, or like on Discord, or what's the other one? Because
I wonder if Rumble would do that.
No, I'll get it for you because I know Comics Division.
Okay.
I jump in some of his watch parties where it's on a different site, but they'll go in and they'll actually watch the movie.
All right.
Or you'd have to do it. Sorry, you'd have to do it like so. When Drinker and Mahler were they were watching all the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
So what they did was they had this app on the screen where it would show. So when I first started, because I didn't even know they were watching it, but I think I jumped on at Star Trek 3, and you could see the film, but you can't see the film because it was like back in the day when you were watching the Scramble channels.
Yeah.
That's how
the
it
old
was.
pay TV days. Yeah.
So that's how they were doing it. That's how they were watching on YouTube. But yeah, I know Comics Division. I'll ask them. They use a site where they watch their movies in a watch party group.
Excellent. We're gonna make that work. All right, I want to do one more Charles Bronson film before we go on to just the free for all here that is The Great Escape, and then we clean up with we're all gonna just start brainstorming and come up with our favorite. You know, what was your favorite part of the Iger Sanction or Dirty Harry or all that stuff? We're gonna hit that here in a minute, but I want to finish up with the original Mechanic. I did not, and to be fair, I'm an originalist, but I did not see, I believe it was Jason Statham. They did the remake of The Mechanic with him.
Statham, absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it? Okay. I did not see it. Was it good, the remake?
Yeah.
Hey, Jason Statham, come on.
Okay. It's good.
Listen, I prefer the OG Gone in 60 Seconds than the new crap one with, you know, they made with Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie. So
I seem to have misplaced. Where did it go? Well, the original, doggone it. Hang on one second here. What happened to I had a clip from The Mechanic and I can't seem to find it. Well, when all else fails, go to IMDb. Sounds good. All right, let's put that down and do this. Mechanic. Now, you take Jan Michael Vincent out of The Mechanic, and it's a great film. But that's just me. I am not a Jan Michael Vincent fan.
he's interesting, that's for sure.
I will do this.
Well, and you can go back, isn't it Jan Michael Vincent and Ernest Borgnine and Airwolf?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I'm like, wow, well, if we just get somebody other than him for Ernie Borgnine to play off of, this would be a hell of a show. Didn't he die? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So Arthur Bishop. Now, I want to say this is my favorite Charles Bronson role, and I'll tell you why. He got to not only absolutely whoop on people in this film, he did a lot of creative stuff. It's a great movie because he's a hitman, and it's not always this go in and just, shoot him in the face kind of thing. There are a lot of really creative hits that he puts on people. Tracy Keenan Wynn up front is an early one that he does, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody who wants to see the original, but it is super inventive. He's very smart in this movie. It's not just, go out and shoot him in the face. Now, they have a couple of those, as you see. We're doing a hit on a boat. We've decided to scuba out and take care of these folks. A lot of action, a lot of blown up stuff. Jan Michael trying to operate a scattergun and can't. This dude was just, there's something about that. I think it's the hair. Could have been the hair that bothered me.
Yeah, but it's the hair.
It was the fashion at the time.
It is the fashion of the time. You got Charles Bronson smoking a pipe. He has a great conversation. He's essentially schooling Jan Michael Vincent because he knows he's ready to hang it up. And Jan Michael Vincent is this kid who sort of works his way in and say, hey, I want to know more about what you do. And this is a great scene where they go and sit down with Jan Michael Vincent's ex-girlfriend. She threatens to do herself up, and he says, go ahead. And she kind of does. And then they ask Chuck Bronson, like, hey, how long is it going to take for her to go? And he's like, how much do you weigh? How much have you had to drink? And he tells her straight out, you got about 28 minutes. It's just the things. It shows the intelligent aspect of, working. Let me see. Where's a good one? Let me take this down for a second till we get to a good one.
This movie originally, too, when it was written, the writer put in the Vincent, Jan Michael Vincent, and Bronson were in it was like a gay relationship, right? And
were they really? Is it?
Oh yeah, and they got a hold of that script, and they were like, yeah, no, we're not. Gonna do that.
Yeah, no, we ain't doing.
So they
that.
Producers added in this sort of subplot with Bronson and the call girl and stuff.
Okay.
To make it absolutely sure that no, he was not gay.
And Jill Ireland makes an appearance in it, as she does in most of his later films.
They were married, so he would try to get her into whatever he was doing.
Oh man, I wish I had a clip. It's bugging me out. I can't find it. There's a scene. I ain't gonna keep messing with it. Let me go to why I thought it was so good. He gets to actually act in this one, and he gets to do it more than once. I mean, he's got a lot of times in here where he gets to reflect on, he's not happy about what he's doing. He's getting tired of it. There is an arc. He gets his Tony Soprano arc, is what I call it, where he has a panic attack when he's at an aquarium, and just does a phenomenal job of selling, how messed up he actually is. And then figures out, he kind of goes through and figures out he's going to mentor Jan Michael Vincent. Now, I did not see, like I said, I know absolutely nothing about the remake, so I don't know how they told that. But he eventually comes to figure out, this kid's not just learning from me, he's hunting me. This is not good. And I ain't going to spoil the ending, but it's an absolute banger. This one I know you can find pretty easy.
From what I know with remakes, especially with Jason Statham, you take Death Race 2000, they remade that, and it was complete opposite of what the movie was about. And I'm like, what is this trash?
Don't call it Death Race, and it's a pretty good movie. You don't try to attach it to something else. And
yeah, and because Jason Statham's in that one. Yeah. And I just found where the movie made no sense for what they were trying to do compared to the original, where it was basically a cannonball run from the original. And that's why I said the same thing goes for Gone in 60 Seconds. From the original in the 70s compared to the new one they tried to do, the movie made no sense. So wondering if the mechanic is, right off the back, it was probably, I never watched it, but I can almost guarantee it's garbage, because they just they don't know how to do. Yeah.
I'll tell you this too. I think there was on the remake, and I will say this about the original mechanic, oh my God, I took my glasses off and I can't see. My original mechanic, 1973.
Yeah, I think 73, right?
let's see, 72. We were close. There are some spots in it where you go, oh, there's not some, slam bang, fast paced action. And some people there, you go, oh, it's not really a Charles Bronson movie. It really is. It's the one where they let him go, hey man, show us that you're reflecting on you hate doing this for a living and you're tired of it and all that. And it works. It's really good. He's sitting in he's got this great plush house, and he's throwing knives up against the wall and he's, playing this music and figuring out how to take down his next mark. And he's just got this, like he's rubbing his forehead and he's just kind of like, God, this job's giving me a headache. And he's Charles Bronson, doesn't say a word, but you can just tell this dude's at the end of his rope. And the minute that he finds out his panic attack scene where he, drops and then winds up in the hospital and he's like, nah, I'm fine. He gets up and walks out. And when he figures out that Jan Michael's coming after him, that's a really good part too, because he gives him this smile, where he looks at him and he gives him that Charles Bronson, I'm on to you, cocksucker, and you just know he's figured it out. He doesn't say anything. He just gives him that cool look. And they're kind of extended scenes. So I'll bet you when you got Jason Statham, you don't waste him on, show us your best pensive thought moment. You're not looking for that from Jason Minnesota.
I think he's overblown anyway.
Outstanding. Thank you, Jim.
I've always liked him.
Come on, Minnesota.
I was enjoying those movies. And they're good for a laugh for me.
You know what? The one movie I actually enjoyed, the recent one was Working Man. I actually enjoyed that. That was pretty decent, but I find him a bit overrated. Like
Statham?
Yeah, like that scene and like that one scene in one of the Fast and Furious movies when he takes on a whole Delta team or whatever. I'm just like, give me a break.
What I really liked him in was Wrath of Man. I thought Wrath of Man was a really good film. He gets a little beat up in that one. He gets kind of tuned up.
Guy Ritchie one.
Yeah. I like me some Guy Ritchie film.
Another director we got to do a show on, I think.
What time we got? 1912? All right. I got a hard out in about 45 minutes. We could do the Greatest Escape start from finish, but I don't know that we're going to do that. I just want to do this. If anybody hasn't seen this movie, I want you to do yourself a favor and go out and either get it on, some streaming service or get you the DVD. I can't find my stinking original copy, so I'm going to have to redo it, but I'll take care of it. I want you to go out and sit down, get yourself about 2-3 hours, and do nothing else but watch this film. It is one of the greatest tough guy movies, and I'll tell you why. We're going to go through the photos here and just kind of kick around a little bit. And everybody in this film, for the most part, there are very few people in here who weren't actually vets. Some of the stories that you're going to see in here are Steve McQueen's a vet. Now, his storyline in here is not true to what he did, but he was a veteran. Does his own stunts, his motorcycle driving. There's one stunt that they wouldn't let him do, and it was that wire jump. The insurance company, absolutely. They had somebody on set that day because they had told him, no, you're not allowed to do this, that, the other thing. And he did it anyway. And then the insurance company said, okay, we're going to have to send a babysitter over there. So they did not let him do that one. However, all the stunt racing, driving, all that stuff you see, that's him really doing that. That's him in the wire. He did not do the wire jump. Jimmy Garner. Oh my goodness. You talk about classic Hollywood tough guy right there.
Can I just throw something in quickly?
Yeah, man, jump.
What do you think of them doing this remake of the Rockford Files?
Who's cast as Jimmy Rockford?
I can't remember the guy's name, but it popped up. It popped up last week.
Charles Bronson. You look that up for me, and when you get to it, give me a holler. Charles Bronson, B-29 tail gunner, wounded, got a Purple Heart. Steve McQueen stole a tank, got busted out of the Corps. God love him. That's my kind of Marine right there. It's him doing a different stunt. That's not the good wire jump. Attenborough, not. Donald Pleasance. I want everybody to know this story. So Donald Pleasance plays the forger, or not? Yeah, the forger, and he goes blind from progressive myopia. Donald Pleasance was actually a POW in World War II. He was actually shot down and served time in a POW camp. His character, that's why he's like, oh, I'll take this role right here. And they go, why? He's like, because I actually did that. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they just started rolling through the cast and like, who did what? And you can do this, you can be this guy. And all of these guys, McDonald, vet, World War II vet. We're going to get to Bronson here in a minute. He plays Danny. I don't know anything about McCallum off the top of my head.
Oh,
Jimmy,
I threw in the private chat. It's a guy named David Bornez. He was in SEAL Team, Bones, and Angel. He was the cop in Bones.
I will take a look at him before we end this, and I'll give you my thoughts. And I'll give you my thoughts on the Senior Salazzo, and I'll tell you what. Boy, I tell you what, before we even get back to Jimmy Coburn, new Rockford Files. Anybody in the chat want to convince me that that's not a bad idea? Because I'm going to say the shoes are too big to fill.
Yeah, exactly. You're not filling James Gardner's shoes.
Yeah. Plus Rocky. Who's going to do Rocky?
Yeah. Just going off topic, Tank, great movie. Great movie.
Yeah.
Like James Gardner is one of those guys you just cannot replace.
Space Cowboys.
Yeah.
He did. You want to see a really good James Garner movie? There's a made-for-HBO movie called Barbarians at the Gate.
Yes,
and
I remember that.
It's about the F. Ross Johnson attempted leverage buyout of RJR Nabisco. And if you ever want to have a good time and learn a little something about finance, go find Barbarians at the Gate. And it's a made-for-HBO film. I'm sure you can get it on like all kinds of streaming services. The female Jamie Rockford. Oh no! Now, if Sydney Sweeney's going to be Jamie Rockford, I might consider it. Although I'm not.
I can deal with that.
If she went redhead and then they put her in there, I'd be okay with that. Wow. Spider, you all right, brother? Did I just throw something at you? Like Spider about came out of his chair.
Who? What? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. I'm going to say no. I'll tell you this much. I got more hope for Heat 2 prequel sequel than I do a James Garner or a James Rockford remake. You ain't going to do it. Jimmy Coburn, man, you talk tough guy. Here's the thing about Coburn. That dude hung around with some really interesting people in Hollywood. Good friends with Bruce Lee, apparently. Big, him and Steve McQueen were buddies. Those guys just were, God, they were rough old dudes. And he was absolutely crippled with arthritis. So Coburn's got a special place in my heart because the fact that dude could do what he did and as crippled up as he was with arthritis, I can barely get out of a chair some days, and it's like, holy cow.
I was going to say, anyone here watch, is it Diabolic or In Like Flint?
Oh, man. Our Man Flint? Hell yeah.
Our Man Flint and In Like Flint, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hell yes. He did the shittiest Australian accent I've ever heard in my life. However, he was entertaining. And
Yeah,
God, he was good in The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
Affliction.
Duck, You Sucker.
Sir?
You ever see Duck, You Sucker? Or Sucker?
Yes, absolutely. What a fun movie. What a fun movie. Affliction with Nick Nolte. If you ever, now be warned, that one's a little heavy. But Jimmy Coburn plays an absolutely evil son of a bitch in that. And it is, man, that's a banger. Everybody's like, Coburn's okay, but he's just kind of this. Go see Affliction. Holy cow. Fistful of dynamite. There you go.
The guy had a niche for just doing the unthinkable things in movies, and he had gravitas no matter how he played it, but he played it well.
He was just gravelly. Jimmy Coburn strikes me as the kind of guy that I'd spill a drink on and I'd go, I'm sorry, let me buy you another one. Excuse me. I'll dry clean that for you. Now, normally I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, sorry, and walk away. Not him. I'd offer to pay Jimmy Coburn's dry cleaning. And Donald Pleasance, somebody said it earlier. I think it was, there you go, maintain range. Donald Pleasance was harder. He was harder than fuck. That you ain't lying. He looks, I think it's the hairline. He looks like a soup sandwich, but boy, that dude, he was a rough old boy.
Yeah, his daughter just recently passed away.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Doggone it. Yeah,
his part in that movie is really heartbreaking.
It is.
When they want him to like, what was it, like walk from here? I forget. I know the scene. I don't remember the specifics.
He sets the pin down and he asks him to go over and he goes over and picks up the pin, and then he says, "Here, pick up this one," and there's nothing there. Yeah,
it's
that
like,
is a
you're not
heartbreaker.
going.
Does he look like Leonard Nimoy in the shot? No, that's one too many whiskeys, JJ.
Yeah.
You could keep doing. Let's see who we got here. Attenborough was good. The guys the German dudes they got to play in that were good. Now, here's my favorite part. This is what I wanted to get to when I was talking earlier about we were going to get to The Great Escape. Charles Bronson actually, real life, worked in a mine. As Darth pointed out very early on, he went to work in the mines. 11 of 15. That is no joke. That dude went to work. I think he was 11 years old, actually, somewhere in there.
Well, he was just out of high school when he went into the mine. And
go back through the book and figure it out. But yeah,
but he worked a whole bunch of different jobs as well before getting drafted.
Yeah, and just dad was not pleasant. I'm sure, as they weren't in those days, so he could take a whooping. I'm going to sidebar here real quick. You can't be a tough guy and never take a beating. I'll tell you that right now. True. You know why some old boys are? I'll give you an example. Bruce Lee. You know why Bruce Lee was such a badass? He got the living shit kicked out of him on a regular basis as a kid in the streets. He got tired of it and decided no more. That's how he became that. So when you see these pretty boys don't have a scar on them in Hollywood, you go, yeah, I ain't buying it.
No, exactly.
But I love that he played Danny the Tunnel Guy, because that scene where he gets halfway through and the lights go out and he flips out and they got to go back and start over with him. That was probably not a lot of acting. I mean, that was probably a lot of real deal right there. Another 6 Degrees of Boredom. Yeah, Escape from New York. Absolutely. It was Cabby. Escape from New York. You bet. Ernie Bourdin. He was a good old dude. Yeah, never lost a fight means you never been in one. That ain't no lie. Never lost a fight. How many you been in? None. Oh, there you go.
True facts.
There you go. Here's him in the tunnel again. All right, we're going to put this away for a little bit. If you haven't seen Great Escape, and I'm sure everybody here has, go out and get it. But if you get a chance, do her again. I'm going to throw one more out here real quick before we just start going apeshit and just naming off the best movies and the best actors ever. And I want to tie into some of the newer guys just for a goof. Magnificent Seven. If you've never seen it, the original Magnificent Seven, the American remake of Yojimbo, go out and check that out. Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Eli Wallach, who is one of my all-time. I think Eli Wallach is a highly underrated actor. I don't think anybody nowadays knows enough about him. That dude. I mean, those of us in the sphere that are kind of movie geeky, we know exactly who you can't. Tuco Ramirez is one of the all-time greats. But there's so many people that don't know how good that guy really was. Robert Vaughn.
It's funny because so anytime I've seen some critic on TV and all they do is talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. They don't talk about anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, The Good and the Bad and the Ugly is a great film, but there are other great films that these guys are in that they have done that are masterpieces.
Magnificent Seven is one of them.
Yeah, they always, for some reason, Eli Wallach, they always have this fallback where it's only the good, the bad, and the ugly. They just keep forgetting about everything else. So,
I think. Let me see here. First of all, the guy's got 146 acting credits under his belt. Mystic River in 2003. Guy was working up to 2003. I mean, the guy, first of all, he's been alive forever. But everything he's in, would you call him a character guy? Would you call Eli Wallach a character guy?
I don't think so. I wouldn't call him a character guy.
Okay, that's a fair call.
Yeah,
So he wasn't, guys. I mean, he wasn't the handsome leading man, but he wasn't, exactly a sort of a off to the side character actor.
He's not Stephen Lang, where everything you see him in, you don't recognize him until halfway through the movie, kind of thing.
Yeah, he played his character as well, and I think he did a very good job. So, yeah, he's not a Stephen Lang. It's.
And speaking of which, before we get out of here in a little bit, let's do this. Let's flip the script a little bit. Since I just mentioned Stephen Lang, you could do Who Are the Great Hollywood Tough Guys all night long. We could be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. We could do an EFAP episode of this shit if you really wanted to get right down to it. Let's do this. Speaking of Stephen Lang, who are the new Hollywood Tough Guys? I throw Michael Biehn out there. I throw Stephen Lang out there. Not that they were the same kind of tough guys, that they lived a life. I don't know as much background on Stephen Lang as I do Michael Biehn. But those guys, if you want to hear how they approach their craft, Bien's got a podcast called Just Fooling About. And it's on YouTube. Go out, check it out. And he gets a lot of guys. He had Lang on one episode. They talked Tombstone. Kurt Russell. I'm going to throw Kurt Russell out there. Actual athlete, drafted by the pros. Dad was a ball player. Grew up on sets with Disney. Now, I don't think you exclusively have to be a vet to be, a tough guy. So let me dispel that right now let's bust into this.
It helps though. It helps a great deal.
It does.
For sure. I mean, if we're going to...
Kurt Russell was a vet anyway, right?
Was Kurt Russell a vet?
Didn't he do 2 years in the Air Force or something?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought he served at one point.
I am not infallible. Let me know, because trust me, I am not infallible.
Chat will know the answer.
Chat, somebody tell us if Kurt Russell was a vet. And like I said, you don't have to be. It helps. My point was on the vet thing it was those World War II fellas and Korean.
National Guard.
National Guard. Okay, fair enough. And if anybody thinks National Guard's a joke, let me share something with you. The 20 years that we were at war in Iraq and Afghanistan, more Guard units were deployed than regular units, just so you know.
Yep, they were.
I have spent more time getting prosthetics for Guardsmen than I have for regular forces. So there. Okay, so Kurt, I love it. Statham, somebody said, I am going to agree, and I'll tell you why. Athlete. I'll take athlete. You're out there doing it. He's got to work hard. He's a diver, big martial artist. You don't have to be, taking bullets necessarily. Getting your ass whipped in some form. That kind of.
I would go Donnie Yen over Statham, because Donnie Yen is 62 years old and he's still doing his own. And he's still doing his own fight scenes, his choreograph. He's doing all of it. So,
we could do a whole thing. I feel bad because we left out. First of all, Stuntman's a whole different. Before we get done tonight, Stuntman's a whole different show. We'll do that. We're going to do Yakima Canutt. We're going to do Buddy Joe Hooker. We're going to do all Dar Robinson, all of the greats. We're going to do that one night. I promise. Okay. Because Stuntman got a niche in my heart. Those are the guys that actually got beat up doing these films. They are the real tough guys in Hollywood. We did actors, and these guys were, a little bit of both who we covered tonight, but stunt guys are where it's at. So that's a whole different show.
Oh, for sure.
But we did not cover the whole martial arts realm. And I'm talking the real live, like Al Leong, Bolo Young, Donnie Yen, to your point. These guys who actually get out there and compete and then do it. We touched on Chuck Norris a little bit, but there's a whole world of fight choreographers and stunt guys and actual action heroes that can really do that shit, that took a beating to get where they are.
Like guys like Ray Park,
Ray Park, perfect example.
Ray Park.
the guys that actually competed to get where they were. You know, that's a whole. I'm going to see if I can find a picture of Al Long. I don't know that many people. When I show it,
I know.
You know who it is, don't you? Off the long-haired guy with the stunt, does a lot of stunt coordination, and he's the dude. If anybody doesn't know off the top of their head, before I try and find a picture and dick it all up, Al Leong was the guy that zapped Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon with the car battery hooked up to the wet sponge and electrocuted him. This is what was his name?
Was he the guy in Die Hard too?
Endo. He was Endo in.
He was in Die Hard as well. He eats the chocolate
he was
bar.
the guy that
he's the chocolate guy.
The chocolate bar guy. Yes, he busts the thing and gets in there. He's a stunt guy extraordinaire, great fight coordinator, and that dude is about it. I mean, there's a whole crop of those guys that we'll do a whole nother section of that.
Keith Cook is another guy too.
I don't know that I'm familiar with Keith.
Keith Cook, he played Sub-Zero.
Oh yeah. Okay.
In the first Mortal Kombat, but he's also his acting credits are just insane.
Yeah, I was kidding that one.
Yeah,
You said Sub-Zero, and I thought you meant Sub-Zero from The Running Man for a second.
Oh God,
Professor Tanaka.
I'm gonna give. Now, I hate to say this. I don't know that I want to do this. Would you? John. Okay, I'll pose it as a question. Would you classify Arnie and Stallone as Hollywood tough guys? Real tough guys?
No, because all Arnold did was lift weights.
Okay.
I would say Stallone, yes.
Stallone had a rough upbringing.
Yeah.
Not to mention, he got a whooping making movies. Dolph Lundgren just about killed his ass.
Yeah.
And Stallone was shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and think about Stallone actually did mountain climbing for Cliffhanger. Like, he actually had to learn that shit.
See, and that's why you got dudes. Eastwood doing the Eiger sanction, all those climbing scenes are him.
Yeah.
You know, all that's why I go, okay. For anybody that don't know Eastwood's military background, he was a swimming instructor at Fort Ord for the vast majority of his career. Now, the water survival course, I don't know if anybody's ever taken it in the military. It ain't a joke. Especially WSSI in the Marine Corps. That's they try and kill you about 6 times a day. But that's why he was in such good shape. But that dude just literally put himself into every one of his roles, and he's like, nope, I'm doing it. I'm climbing that rock. When you see him in the Eiger sanction, when he's getting ready, he's at George Kennedy's climbing school, and he climbs that chimney and gets all the way to the top, lifts himself up on the top, and then, you know, that's actually him doing that shit. Now, granted, I'm sure they got all kinds of safety ropes, but show me somebody that's going to do that nowadays and not go, hey, I'm going to need an extra $40 billion or whatever.
Yeah.
The cherry picker in Dirty Harry of him going up, that's him.
Yeah. Exactly. He's in that fire bucket. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and going back to Cliffhanger, what you think there's going to be an actor today who's going to say, "Oh, listen, that mountain, you gotta climb it." They're like, "No, they'll immediately turn it down."
We'll CGI it.
Yeah, they'll CGI it.
We'll see. Yeah,
they get a real person that can do this work, and then they would just CGI the actor's face over that the person that's doing it.
We'll get Andy Serkis to do it.
Yeah, well, and Jim was just saying in the chat, you think about when Tom Cruise broke his ankle doing that jump. Who does? What other actor who would actually take that risk and do that? What actor out there would actually take that risk and climb that Dubai Tower, or strap themselves on the outside of a C-17?
I got a couple of good ones here. JJ's got one. What about John Wick?
John Wick just did the gun training. I would not make him a tough guy. You know.
No, he did all the fight too. All the rolling with the BJJ, and he went through all of that.
I'm gonna put it in this category. He's in shape, and he did the stunts, but I wouldn't exactly say he had the upbringing that the real tough guys had. You know, put that guy on a horse and see what happens.
Yeah, that's.
However, I'm not going to take away that he got in shape. Getting in shape for some. You look at like Hemsworth and some of these boys that really buff up for these roles. That can't even what's his name? The family I can't stand. Gyllenhaal, when he did that remake of Roadhouse. Old boy was hard, man. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
But tough guy, nah, I ain't going quite
here's
there.
The thing. Anyone can buff up easily, you know, but are you maintaining that? Are you actually doing the rigorous? You know, it's easy to eat 10 pounds of blueberries and trying to cut your weight and everything. You know, it's one thing, and then lifting some weights. But are they maintaining that? Are they still going hard? A guy like Tom Hardy, that guy's been going hard all his life. You know, that guy's been
now. Yeah, see, we're going to get into tough guy
right there. Yeah,
I'm going to give you my example of why I think Tom Hardy is an actual badass right now in Hollywood. A lot of people do background for roles, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking about Charles Bronson, the actor. There is another fellow named Charlie Bronson who is the absolute worst prisoner in the entire British incarceration system. That he made a movie. It's called Bronson. Now, a lot of people. It is a good movie. It's a weird story. If you ever want to be entertained, go check that out, man. The story of Charlie Bronson, the British prisoner, not the actor, is wild. And if you ever get time, go check that out. But here's what happened on that. Tom Hardy, in preparation for that, actually wrote Charlie Bronson, said, "I would like to meet you to figure out, what you're like and do this role properly." Now, Charlie Bronson is a hard dude to get along with, and he said, sure. He went and met him with nobody in the room several times. The guards are outside, and sat there with this dude who has killed people with his bare hands just because he didn't, care for him, and got to know this guy. And this dude's like, yeah, I think this kid's all right. I'll go ahead and let him do the film. You got some stones to walk into a room with a fellow like that. So I'll give him that much. Plus, the work that he's done to get in the fighting shape, I think he's done a good job. Did he grow up rough? I don't know. I don't know what his life was like as a kid, but he's certainly trying. He's doing a pretty good job of I'll tell you this. This is my observation of Tom Hardy. I look at him in some of his pre-fight scenes where he's staring at somebody, he's eyeing somebody up. He has a look that, to me, looks authentically like somebody who has been in a scrape or two in his life. I think that old boy's been beat up more than once. I haven't done enough into his background to say that's true or not, but it appears that way to me. So I give him that one. But he's a proper. So he does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, maintain range? Okay.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good.
He was also a bad drug addict, too, so he was always with gangs and shit like that.
Okay. All right. Well, then you've got what's that fella was in he was in Braveheart. Tommy Flanagan, is that his name? Got the Glasgow grin, the one I'm thinking of. Is that him, Darth?
Yeah.
Tommy Flanagan.
Right.
Yeah.
Flanagan.
Yeah, you hang around with enough folks in, Whitechapel area of London, you qualify as a tough guy right off the bat. That's a rough spot.
You think about the story of Ken Shamrock, why he was kicked out of the WWF. He was hurting people.
Yeah, exactly. He's ruining careers here.
Yeah, he's hurting people, because you're trying to discriminate from wrestling and ultimate MMA fighting. They're two different things. One's real and one's not.
Yeah, that's a fact. That is a stone fact. We got a little bit of time. I want anybody in chat wants to throw something out there. Go ahead. I want to hear your favorite Hollywood tough guy. Go do a before and after. I want to hear back in the day and then somebody nowadays that you're
I'm just going to throw something out quickly because we were talking the other day about because we were talking about Universal Soldier and the training on the first Universal Soldier they had to do, climbing down that dam. And then we brought up, Sin brought up the whole, the Volvo commercial, and then I remember because we were watching the making of it. And Van Damme was just saying, like, I could die from doing this thing, because it's almost like the fact they got on the first shot, but when they had the rehearsal people out there, and it's just like anything could have went wrong, but here's a guy who was able to do it because of his his body style and his flexibility. It's amazing. But yeah, there was just so many, because even I love, there was I don't know if anyone's seen that video where Chuck Norris is wrote, he basically said, because he was on Dick Cavett, and Dick Cavett asked him, do you know Van Damme? He goes, yeah, Van Damme trained with me for about a year, so I know his character, I know how good he is. And then he roasted Steven Seagal, because Steven Seagal was like, because he asked, the guy's boring, he doesn't know how to fight.
Fraud. I can't stand that.
He is a fraud, because it just tells you who these guys are and what they're about. So, like, the one, Steven Seagal, like, okay, Under Siege, great movie. I like Under Siege.
Sure, it was fun.
It's a fun movie, but the fact that he overplays in his ego on himself, where he's like the baddest guy out there, the guy is a phony.
Wow, the one I tell you, he had a really short-lived series where he was some reserve officer in Louisiana, and Tom Segura made a really great joke one time in a show that he did, and it was like, the fact that you could leave this theater and theoretically in real life get pulled over by Steven Seagal blows my mind. And I thought that was funny, but it's also bullshit. I'm like, I watched that show and he did some of his stuff, and I'm like, that's not how that works. I'm like, God dang, not only can you not make movies and be real, you can't even do a cop real, you ding dong. God, that guy pissed me off. Jesus. Oh man, that guy made me lawman. Yeah, there you go. God, what a piece of shit that thing was. And now he's hanging out with Putin. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. This guy's so fat he can't touch his toes, for Pete's sake.
The fatter he got, the longer the coats got in the movies, if you notice.
Yeah. I noticed on Deadly Ground by that one that, he's starting to wear maternity clothes for, his outfits. I'm like, what's going on here, big boy?
Remember Executive Decision? He was in it for like 5 minutes.
I want to see Kurt Russell walk up and just knock him right on the off switch. Just boom, sit down, you fucking freak.
Like everyone, I remember because we saw that in the theater. It was just like, what? He's gone. He's dead. He like literally killed him off in like 5 minutes.
Thank you, Zach. I was waiting. I was waiting for somebody to bring up Gunny Ermey. Now, I want to share a story. I want to share a story about Gunny Ermey and Full Metal Jacket. If you go watch the making of that film, it's an incredible, I'm not going to do the whole thing. It's an incredible story. There is one part of that shooting event that is incredible. Here's why R. Lee Ermey was a real tough guy. Not only is he a vet, not only is he an incredible Marine, he got into a car accident one night while they were shooting that film. They were shooting in England, and he got into a car accident. And he got messed up. I'm talking multiple broken ribs, and bruised his heart, all kind of weird shit. And somebody went to Kubrick and said, hey, I think we're going to have to get somebody else to do this. And Kubrick, just got himself up, went over to the hospital and said, well, R. Lee, what do you think? And he said, nope, I'll be good. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, they went out and filmed those PT scenes where he's running the crew around the barracks. I don't know, but I've been told Eskimo pussy is mighty cool. That's 2 weeks after he got smashed up in an accident so bad they were going to take him off the picture. That man was a piece of work, and he got up and did it every day. And God love him for doing it. He did. He was in Apocalypse Now. He was a tech advisor on that. He was one of the chopper pilots in that. He's done a Boys in Company C. He did a bunch of good stuff. A lot of people.
I remember the Boys in Company C.
Yeah, he just gets remembered for Full Metal Jacket and that really bad Texas Chainsaw remake, whatever that freaky thing was. But
well, he was in
Mississippi Burning was one of my favorites of his.
He was in an episode.
Were you going to do that? I'm sorry, Spider. I didn't mean to jump it. You tell everybody what he did. Mississippi Burning.
I mean, I just rewatched it again a couple of days ago, and that movie is just incredible from beginning to end. And that soundtrack when it hits and how it escalates, and talk about badass Gene.
Oh yeah, Gene Hackman. He goddamn when he goes in there and he goes in to roust those old boys, and Michael Rooker breaks bad on him. He grabs him by the balls and says, "Don't you go mistaking me for some whole other body." Yeah, that's if anybody hasn't seen Mississippi Burning and you want to see one of Gene Hackman's best films, and one of Willem Dafoe's better pieces, it's a great Alan Parker film. Go check that out. Soundtrack's fantastic, and it's banger from start to finish. It's kind of a sad story, but
yeah, I was just going to mention Spider because I know you said you're going to watch the original Miami Vice. Well, Emery is in one of the episodes. I think in season 4. He plays a wild character in one of the episodes, so yeah, you'll see him there.
He's also in Saving Silverman too, as the coach.
Well, and it's funny because when you're mentioning what was it regarding what movie was it now they did? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Hopefully it'll come back.
That's right, it'll come back. I want to bring this up real quick. Wayfarer 79, Seagal runs like a trans woman's got a twig stuck up his backside where the sun doesn't shine. He was late for a pegging session. Did you know that Seagal actually had a clause in his contract after Under Siege that he did not appear running in any scene? It was a long-standing to the end. To this day, he won't. Well, I mean, the guy couldn't run right now. The only thing he's running to is the craft table. Fat sack of shit. What if I can't stand that fucking guy? There's a lot of people that, like in Hollywood, if you saw him, I go, no, there's no way I'd try it out. But him, I'd do it.
I remember, even though he's a piece of shit, but Mark Hamill, when he got in that car accident.
Yeah, Corvette Summer. Yeah.
When he got in that car accident for Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
No, they're just like, okay, well, we need you. So they actually filmed. They filmed that. So with his face all thing. So.
All jacked up. Yeah, I was in between Corvette Summer and Empire Strikes Back, and he got all twisted up, and they're like, hey, man, we need you aboard. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah.
So I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, you know what? His politics aside, he had to get in shape for that Empire Strikes Back. He got to do a lot of running in that one with Yoda on his back. You know, having Frank Oz with his hand up a puppet's back, you know.
Well, and they're doing if you look, like if you watch the behind the scenes of Revenge of the Sith, for the lights between Ewan and Hayden Christensen, what they had to do for that fight is unbelievable. You know, for the choreography on their lightsaber duel, like it was insane.
So they had to work on it for what 6-8 weeks or something.
Yeah,
right. And it became like their muscle memory by the time they got to.
And remember when he was in Ahsoka. And he's older than her, and he outdueled her every time because they had to stop filming because he was just going too fast for them to keep up because she couldn't keep up. So that shows you the intense training he had to go through for that.
You know, speaking of tough guys and lightsaber duels, you know who always impressed me was Sir Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Because that original one that they had to train for, that dude was up there, man. He was getting old, and he went in there and he did the same kendo training as everybody else, and actually, did the thing. And he played the toughest character I think I have ever seen. When he played Colonel Nicholson in Bridge on the River Kwai, I just thought that character was tough as hell. I love when Saito gets him in the office. He's, if I don't get Bridge to here by May, I have to kill myself. What would you do in my position? And he looks at him. He's been in the hot box for like 2 weeks. And he goes, well, I suppose if I was you, Colonel Saito, I'd have to kill myself. I'm like, that dude's cool. That's just a cool line. Oh, we got one over here. Oh, here you go. Dennis Farina. I'm glad somebody brought him up. There's a couple more fellas. If you IMDb Code of Silence with Chuck Norris, Denny Farina and some of the boys on that had been technical advisors for a while. And Chuck, one of the things I've always talked about Chuck Norris and how much I like him is because how good he works with stuntmen and how he had a tendency to, he wasn't drawing big money, but he got to kind of say how things went on some of his films. And he'd got the tech guys. Burt Reynolds did this too. He got the tech guys and the stunt guys and said, why don't you guys come along and get a role? He put Burt Reynolds put Dar Robinson in Stick. He said, you need to be up front on this side of the camera. And Denny Farina, Chuck helped him out on that one a little bit. Denny, yeah, he was, man.
Denny Farina was in again, Spider, when you watch Miami Vice, he's in quite a few episodes.
Oh,
yeah, so.
Get Shorty, he was awesome. That one in Snatch. If you've never seen Snatch, Dennis Farina is absolutely fucking hysterical in Snatch. Cousin Abby. Oh my God, he's funny.
His first movie was Thief.
Denny?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jimmy Caan. I can't believe we walked by Jimmy
Michael
Caan.
Mann. Yep.
Yeah.
Michael Mann.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Can't believe it. I got a great story. This is going to be tough to source. I'll have to do it. I'll see if I can do it and get it in the comments later on. But this is a good story I heard a way back. Jimmy Caan was Godfather era, right? And everybody, he was the big boy on the block, and he was just the duck's guts, and everybody just thought he was everything. He ran across Gene Hackman one night. They were at a bar, and Jimmy had his entourage with him, and Hackman's just him and a couple other folks. Real small party. Gene Hackman was kind of out of the way. He wasn't a big Hollywood dude. And Jimmy Caan started messing with him. And Hackman's a former Marine, so he's got just so much on his bullshit meter before he goes off, right? And Jimmy Caan said, all right, that's it. I'm tired of it. Come on, let's do it. And Gene Hackman said, you really want to do this? And he said, yeah. And Gene Hackman tuned him up. They went outside, and Gene Hackman gave him all he wanted. And that was the last time Jimmy got in a fight with somebody, some other big star, because he thought it'd make him. That's when he let the Godfather go to his head and thought he was actually Sonny Corleone. Gene Hackman was like, I just finished up the French Connection. I've been hanging with Eddie Egan for the last year.
So I got one for you. James Caan. Freebie and the Bean.
Oh yes, with Alan Arkin. Oh my God,
Alan Arkin, Loretta Swit.
Oh my God, that was a good one.
Great comedy. Remember when the car ended up in the living room?
Yes, on like halfway up the building. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Spider. Darth, you've probably seen it, but Spider. If you want a good movie with James Caan, Freebie and the Bean. It's just hilarity.
I'm looking right now. I've never seen or heard of this.
Yeah.
Zach's bringing up our Lee lines from Full Metal Jacket. Here's a fun one. Watch that movie real careful sometime. Here's a little fun inside fact. If you watch the making of, you'll get to hear Vince D'Onofrio tell this story. They had all the extras. R. Lee would practice the squad bay scenes with the extras, and then he just brought in Matt Modine and Vince D'Onofrio and Cowboy. Somebody help me out with Cowboy's actor's name. I'll get it here in a second. But they had just showed up for the first time, and that scene where he tells them, if you don't stop smiling, I'm going to gouge out your eyeballs and skull fuck you. Yeah. That was the first time D'Onofrio had heard that line. That's why he had such a hard time not laughing, because he had never heard those lines before. And D'Onofrio was legit trying his best not to crack up.
Have you watched the director's cut?
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah,
I got that.
Nice. Yeah, I got that too.
That's a good. That's a great. Kubrick was a goddamn lunatic, man. If you ever want good Hollywood stuff, check into the backstory of some of his filmings, man. That guy was nuts.
Well, do you remember even for Dr. Strangelove, the original was supposed to be, the ending was supposed to be a big pie fight?
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, no, we ain't doing that. We're dropping.
Ray in the chat says, "Hey, rollerball for a James Caan movie."
Oh, yeah, rollerball. I remember that.
Not only was that the fucking action scenes on that were fantastic, but what a great story, man. What a people nowadays should see that just to get the individual, because that movie at its core is, the machine is telling you you're retired, and he's like, I ain't going with the program. That's all that. I ain't ready to retire. That's all that movie was. He's going against the machine. I love that ending. I felt bad for Moon Pie, but the rest of that was pretty good.
One of my favorite Gene Hackman movies was The Package with him and Tommy Lee Jones.
I still have to watch that.
Oh, I love that movie. Any chance I get to watch it. Just him, Tommy Lee Jones, Pam Grier. Who else was in that? It was a great cast.
Fucking Pam Grier, man.
Sounds like something I should watch.
Yeah, the pack it came. Yeah, basically behind Cold War. You know, they're. Yeah, I would. I don't want to tell too much, but Package, great movie.
And if you're a Pam Grier fan at all and you haven't seen Jackie Brown, you're not a real live Pam Grier
Jackie
fan.
Brown is a great movie.
You have got to that man. Yeah, absolutely. See, thank you. Maintain. Yeah, absolutely. It's a secret dissection of communism. You're absolutely right. There you go. Thanks for having the intellectual take on that one. I was like, that's the guy that doesn't like the boss. Maintain Rage is cleaning it up for me. Thanks, man.
When I had Drinker on, I mentioned Street. There's a movie called Street Kings. It's with Keanu Reeves.
I'll check on that, Zephyr.
Keanu Reeves, Hugh Laurie, Forrest Whitaker. Great movie.
Forrest Whitaker, I could watch that dude and any role he's in. You know, one of my favorites of him, and it's really short, The Color of Money, where he hustles Fast Eddie Felson. He tells him a quick story, and then Paul Newman realizes he's getting hustled. Man, what a great scene that is.
You know who we didn't mention? Robert Shaw.
Oh.
There's a tough guy through and through.
Yeah, that ain't no joke. You know, him and Cassavetes, the two of them. I know why I was going to bring them up now. Writers, man, there's something about writers. They're a different breed, and they're great actors. But it's like they don't get what they need out of that, you know. And then their writing career doesn't take off, and then they just kick out early, you know. And you had Cassavetes kind of. I don't know there was anything that triggered him, but when Mary Urey offed herself, that Shaw was done. He was just finished at that point. That's kind of like Bronson. If when Jill Ireland died, he was wrecked. You know,
for sure.
They might be tough, but when their ladies leave them, it's all over with. Yeah. Did
anybody mention Sean Connery? I may have missed that.
We did not, and it's funny you bring him up. I was going to do that when we were talking about what a scumbag Seagal was. He broke Connery's wrist when they were doing Never Say Never Again. What a piece of shit. Connery was, he was a pretty tough old boy.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this with Drinker. We're talking about I love Outland.
Outland is awesome.
Highly underrated film.
Yeah, Outland's a great movie. And we were talking about because we were talking about, because Never Say Never Again and Octopussy came out in the same year, but because that was under a different company. But it was Never Say Never Again that made them more money because it was Sean Connery.
You want to see a really good Sean Connery movie? There's a really early Kubrick movie called The Hill. Go check that out. I ain't gonna ruin it. I'll set it up for you. It's a British, not POW. What do you call it? British correctional custody unit, and he plays one of the soldiers that's incarcerated in it. It is brutal. Go check that out.
I got one, but it's with
fair call, way fair.
So it's with Sean Connery's younger brother, Neil Connery. He plays in a movie called Operation Kid Brother, and it has the original Blofeld, Moneypenny. They're in this movie.
I'll be right back, boys.
It's with Sean Connery's younger brother. So, and the only reason I knew about this movie because, here and there I like watching Mystery Science Theater 3000, and this movie was playing, and I'm just like, wait a minute, this guy looks familiar. And so I looked it up, and it was Neil Connery, Sean Connery's younger brother. So yeah, he plays this scientist thing, and there are spies everywhere trying to get this secret formula. It was a crazy movie. But having seen Blofeld, Moneypenny in this movie, I was like, it was pretty crazy.
Practically a James Bond film.
Yeah, but it's called Operation Kid Brother. That's why. That's why they call it that. So they're just say, oh, it's James Bond's younger brother, but it is Sean Connery's younger brother, who did some acting until he got into a car accident, and then he stopped acting. So.
And it was like a comedy, like.
Yeah, not really a comedy, but to today's stand, what Mystery Science Theater, they just watch bad movies. So yeah, it's if you're gonna watch that movie, watch the Mystery Science Theater one for context.
Give that a shot.
Yeah, but it was interesting because, like I said, when I was first watching, I was like, "Why does this guy look familiar?" And I was gonna say, "Yeah, Sean Connery's younger brother."
All right.
I'm so glad people understand Outland.
Yeah, I when I watched it for the first time, I was just like, "This is a good movie."
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's basically a Western in space. Yeah.
Essentially, Peter Boyle being like just the bad guy in that.
Yeah, I watched a movie with him, with Peter Boyle, where he plays. So it was with David Keith, not Keith David. It was with the other one. The Rise and Fall of Oliver North, and Peter Boyle plays the admiral, who basically signs off on the whole Iran contract. It was a wild movie. It was a wild movie. It played the girl Lana Lang from Superman. She was in that. It was pretty interesting.
I just got back. I heard you guys talking about Outland. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What movie was that again?
The Rise and Fall of Oliver North. It had Peter Boyle, David Keith. It just talks about the whole Iran Contra thing. Miguel Fuhrer, he's in it.
I heard you guys talking about Outland when I got back. You know who my favorite? I think my favorite in Outland is Frances Sternhagen, the doctor.
Yeah,
she's a goddamn.
Yeah, she was cool.
She's funny. She's a tough old broad in that thing. What a great movie that was. Western in space. That's a good way to put that. That's exactly what that was. You got a showdown at the OK Corral in outer space, man. That was cool.
It was funny because I think Gary, they were talking about it on chat, but they were talking about Moonraker in that silly laser battle in space. Moonraker was
that was a piece of work. I was not a big Roger Moore fan. I know a lot of people liked him from The Saint. That wasn't really my thing.
I like Live and Let Die.
That was fun. I'm a big Yaphet Kotto fan, so
yeah,
it was good there.
Because of that, Live and Let Die was pretty much the only Roger Moore movie I actually liked. James Bond I liked.
Yeah.
Well, that one was written while they still had Connery under contract, right? So it was supposed to be for him, which is I think why it's a little bit different from a lot of the other movies that came afterwards, because they started writing specifically for.
Well, because that was 73, right?
Yeah.
No shit. All right, boys. I hate to do this, but we're gonna have to get out of here at some point. I got places to be and whiskey to drink again.
Nice.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I think I want to wrap up. We started off with. I'm not really sure if I started off with modern Hollywood sucks in mind, but I think we kind of proved that ain't exactly true. It's just going to take a while to transition. It ain't going to be the same, but it may not be all bad either. I think we've hit a few folks that might fill in the gap here. We just got to get. It's the writers at this point. We got to get them writers out of here.
Just got to start putting Henry Cavill in everything, you know. And then I think we'll be good for a while.
Right.
If I can just bring something up quickly.
Yeah, man, go.
So it looks like they confirmed they killed a shooter.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me happy. Well done to the Capitol Police.
FAFO, right?
Secret Service. Right? Yeah. Well done to the Capitol Police and/or Secret Service.
Looks like things
to live and die in LA in real life. Way to go, boys.
Yeah, it looks like Jay's hosting Cobra Cast right now. So
excellent. Why is Jay hosting? Why isn't
Jay?
Jeremy doing that shit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess Jeremy's indisposed.
Well, I'll let everybody go follow news. Frankly, I got more pressing items right now.
You got booze to drink.
Man, I got an appearance to make here in a little bit. I got some fireworks and some whiskey and some glad handing and all that kind of stuff. I want to thank you guys for showing up. God dang, I love having you guys on the show. This is a blast.
Yeah, this is always fun.
This is a really fun show. Sure.
It's a good time. Giles on a mission. Yeah, I got a mission set in front of me, Zephyr. I got no choice. But we will coordinate and do the next one. I think, fellas, next one of these we do. You want to do Stuntmen?
Sure.
Yeah. You want to do Stuntmen? All right. Let's do that.
I don't know specifically, but I can talk stunts and stuff like that.
Bring it, man. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and we'll firm all this up, but I might start with Yakima Canutt. I'm just going to go down the line. We'll start with Yakima Canutt, and then we'll get to Dar Robinson, and we'll put Buddy Joe Hooker in there, and then we'll get to Dar Robinson, and we'll throw around a bunch of others. But go out, do your, I ain't going to restrict anybody. Go out, get yourself one or two of them, and bring them along, and we'll toss them stuff. Yeah, I know Darth's got a bunch of them. You're that backstory guy.
Yeah,
you got a bunch of them.
That's what I wanted to be a stuntman when I was a little kid.
I'm telling you, man, that is the life.
I saw Lee Majors and
right,
the Fall Guys. Like, dang, that's what I want to be.
That badass truck, and you're like, I'm going to do that for a living. Yeah, them old boys.
That was such a good show.
God, they don't make them like that anymore.
Heather Thomas.
I didn't see that remake either, but I understand it was pretty good.
Yeah, everyone talked. I know in the
Gosling.
G&G circles, everyone said it was a good, fun movie. It didn't cost a lot to make.
Yeah,
it was just a good, and that was Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
but I tell you, he ain't gonna save Star Wars.
No, that thing's done like a dog's dinner. All right, Darth, why don't you start us off? Tell us where we can find you. Tell us what you got going on, sir.
I got the channel is Chilled with Monkey Brains with a Z. And I just released a video last week about the animated version of Lord of the Rings, and how that almost killed the director. I got another Star Trek video coming out next week, and I love being on the show. Thank you for having me on here. I'm just sort of getting used to this whole live thing, and thanks very much for having me on. I really enjoy talking with you and Spider and Cole.
Absolutely,
it's a great time.
Anybody that can geek out about the classics, man, you're welcome aboard anytime. You got all the good stuff too. We did that Blade Runner bust out, man. You had all the good stuff. I'm like, I gotta have Darth back on again. He's making the show look good. Spider, where do we find you, sir? What you got going on?
Unfiltered Outlaws will be tomorrow live 2 p.m. going over anime and baseball with our friend Biggles Mets. That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern time. Then we'll be back Monday at 7 p.m. And Wednesday, Cole will be on for the Phantom Menace stream, Guilty Pleasure. That's also at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Thursday, I think we're doing another pop-up, and Giles will be there.
Yes, sir. I'm down. I am down for it.
And always a pleasure to just hang around and shoot the shit here because it's just fun. Yeah.
I like me some Saturday nights with you fellas. We get to cut up and have a good time. We got a good chat, and man, you guys got some banger takes on some of these films. We bring the goods, man. Cole, where do we find you, Colossus? What's up, brother?
Yeah, I got I might do some gaming tonight because tomorrow we got my con. I might do a little filming from there. I might stream from there, just walk around and stuff. But yeah, you can find me here. I got some exciting stuff coming up because I got some more great guests coming on.
Some more up and comers, some more new folks.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that. And yeah,
who's next? Nerdrotic, that guy we've all heard about but haven't seen yet.
Then we have then looking forward to seeing Spider on Wednesday, and then I got the Golden Age podcast on Monday, and then some other stuff we're working on.
Outstanding. Looking forward to it, man. You guys, you got a good gig going on. I like watching the bigs show up.
You know what's been? It's like I said, it's not the fact that, you know, I've been friends with these guys, like with Jeremy and these guys for quite a few years now, and you know, I never want people to think that they're something of celebrity. They're just like you and me, you know. As Spider will tell you at MegaCon, everyone is accessible. You can just go up and talk to them and just shoot the shit with them, because they're just, you know, and they'll always tell you and it's like I tell everyone, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for everyone, with all of you who, you know, made these things possible, because, you know, I'm not doing this on my own. I you know, people who come to my chat and come to my channel, it's because of all of you. So, and we have a great support base with everybody, you know. It's like, we get a good crowd, you know, I was telling everyone today on my stream, hey, check out Giles' channel tonight. Check out everybody, like go. And I always tell people, put your links on my channel, share everything, you know, because we're here helping each other. So.
Yeah, man. And I got a regular weekday morning gig at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. I kind of pirated the spot in between Jay's show and the daily, because I always figured I never had anything to watch in between those two. So I thought, all right, I'll do it. I'll fill in the spot. And we do these kind of shows regular. This Saturday thing's turning into kind of a regular thing. So I'm looking forward to, I'll send you boys an email. We'll get going on the next date. I don't know when it's going to be, but we'll do Stuntmen next time. I think that'll be fun. And we might do like Unfiltered Outlaws. I got the Thursday pop up with them. I do some gaming in the afternoons as a method of avoiding the chores that I got to do. But every morning, every weekday morning, 9 a.m. Central, I get in here and laugh and cut up and make fun of stupid people. And if you haven't subbed yet, bring a friend. Both of y'all sub up and we'll do it. Somebody said earlier, well, you got to find a way to drop $1 on you. Here's the best part of that. If I ever do get monetized, I've already got my folks locked onto this. We're going to take that money and do Wounded Warriors and Tunnels to Towers and you know, some addictions counseling for vets and all that. We're going to give it away. The money is going to do nothing but give me more opportunity to day drink. So we're going to give it to people who can actually use it. We'll get monetized sometime in the future, but that ain't our thing. We just like having y'all aboard and having a good time, spending a good Saturday night with y'all. So
yeah, it's fun. I love
it. In that vein, I want to thank everybody for coming by, and especially thank you boys for being here on the show. We'll do it again. And until we see everybody in the chat again, God bless y'all. Have a great weekend.
Take care, chat.
I'm just about done here. I never did know your name.
Yes, you do. Take care.
Yes, sir, Captain.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do? We're some real pretty shit now, man.
You finished?
It's the end of the road.
You bastards!
Between Glamorgan and Yorkshire, the Yorkshire bowler Nicholson took 8 wickets for 3 runs. Glamorgan were all out for 36 and therefore won the match by an innings and 7 runs. Weather for tomorrow will be cloudy with occasional outbreaks of rain. And that is the end of the news. And now...
Can we go home now?